Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Real Life Health Show. I'm so excited. I got some guests on here today. This is Erin and Dusty, and they have a really cool YouTube channel.
It's Eat, Move, Rest, and
Yep.
our last name is the Stanzik. So it's a
Stanzik.
tricky one.
Yeah. Stanzik.
Yeah.
Okay, and I know you're in Florida now. Where were you originally from, and have you grown up in Florida, or did you just move here?
Yeah, no, we've been in Florida for probably 2.5 years now. We're originally from Nebraska. We started our YouTube channel and started, realized very quick, like, wow, we could turn this into, what we do. And with a camera and a computer, we can do it from anywhere. So we're like, let's try someplace that doesn't have terribly cold winters. So we started exploring, we spent a few months in California. We hosted retreats in Costa Rica for many years. And we were like, gosh, I don't know about either of those places. Why don't we try Florida? And
The
we came
retreats,
here.
the retreats in Costa Rica were really the
Yeah,
impetus because
right.
the owners of the retreat center were originally from Florida, and they're like,
Yeah,
if you guys love Costa Rica, but you still want to live in America and get a taste of the tropics, move to Florida. You can
yep,
grow a lot of the same foods there, and
yep.
so we went for it.
Yeah, we've been here. We rented for a few months and now we've lived in our house for a little over 2 years, and we love it, man. We love it. We're going like you, we're growing some fruit trees, and our kids don't ever have to wear shoes, and we all have good tans. We spend all of our time outside, and we love it. So
That is wonderful. Now, I know you're a vegan family now, and you do mostly raw. But when you started out, like when you guys got married, were you eating meat and then both have a revelation together, or did one of you get it first?
Yeah, I feel like by the time we got married, we were pretty familiar with the idea of food as medicine.
yep.
But it took us a little while to go fully plant-based. But we were introduced fairly early on in our relationship. We heard Dr. Esselstyn speak at a local hospital
Yep.
in Nebraska. My uncle, who's a cardiologist, actually invited us to go listen to this doctor who we had no clue about
Right.
speak, and it ended up being him. And once we learned what we learned about a plant-based diet and how you can
Yeah.
prevent and reverse heart disease, it was just like down the rabbit hole we went.
Right.
And we slowly, started eliminating things. And
We're both very type A. We're both like the firstborn type A. Like if somebody tells us something that we know is right, we can't unhear it. We can't unlearn it. And we're like, gosh, but yes, being from Nebraska, Nebraska's tag, Florida's the sunshine state. Nebraska, where we're from, is the beef state. No joke. So, we grew up on that stuff. And yeah, when we got together, we were still in college. We spent most of our time drinking beer on the weekends and eating burgers and steaks. And so it was a big shift for us. But yeah, like Aaron said, after meeting Esselstyn and then going down this our own personal health and wellness journey, a plant-based diet was like, wow, yep, this is something we really need to do.
So you started doing that. Was that before you had children? Were you both vegan before you had children?
yeah, for
Yep.
about, I would say 5 years, we
Yeah.
were completely vegan for about 5 years before we had our son, Max.
Yep. And
So you,
again,
yeah.
high raw. Aaron was has definitely always been more raw than me. She's
Dabbling in the fully raw,
yeah,
and still until I got pregnant and then
right.
started breastfeeding and be like, holy cow,
Well,
I
that's what I
Yep.
was
just,
going to ask you. So you did your pregnancy vegan.
Right.
yep, all
Yep.
three.
Now, did you use a doctor? Did they say don't be vegan, or did you just do it your own thing at home?
Yeah.
Yeah, I come from a family of doctors who, being that we had already been on this lifestyle for about 5 years, they were much more supportive and knew that we had equipped ourselves with the knowledge and the tools and everything. We frequently got our blood work done, and everything was just A plus plus perfect. My dad was always like, get out of here. I'm
Yeah.
jealous of you. Like
Yeah.
everyone else in the family has all these like markers for,
Heart
heart
disease.
disease. So I think they were supportive, but if it had been where we just jumped on this,
Yeah.
bandwagon, like right when I got pregnant, they would have been definitely a little bit more skeptical, like, oh, they're doing this fad diet that's going to be bad for them. But
Right. And you hear the horror stories, right?
yeah,
About the vegans whose babies die and whatever. We have people ask us all the time and they're like, hey, I want to be vegan, but I also want to be, get pregnant and all these things. And we're like, look, make sure you know what you're doing. And so when you do go talk to your doctor, have confidence and say, I know what I'm doing. And we even tell people, if you're strong, if you're healthy and you're on a plant-based diet, you don't even have to tell your doctor that, because most doctors don't get it. They're not educated on it, because we have friends that are like, oh, well, my doctor said like I can't be vegan and have a healthy pregnancy. I'm like, why'd you even tell them? You know, they don't need to know that.
So
They're not your nutritionist.
yeah,
So
I did. I went with a midwife, so they're a little bit more open-minded, but still a lot of them will recommend at least having like your eggs and
yeah,
all of this. But instead, like Dusty said, I didn't really, talk nutrition too much. Instead, I went to like the reputable plant-based physicians who I had already been following online.
yeah,
So there thankfully were so many resources, and there's more and more coming up every day. So that's
yeah,
kind of where we looked to.
yeah.
Did you take the standard prenatal supplements, or did you just rely on the diet and supernatural stuff?
Yeah.
I did do like a prenatal, but not like
Like
the
a half
full
dose.
dose. Like it's divided into like 3 a day. And I'm like,
Yeah,
well, I'm getting it. It was like a whole food, organic based multi. So it's
yeah,
already coming from all the plants that we're eating. So I'm like, I'm just going to take one third of the dose so I
yeah.
can like
Peace
cover
of
my
mind
bases.
more than anything.
But
Yeah,
it probably wasn't like, because sometimes I feel like they're overkill. And if you get too much of a good thing, it can be a bad thing too.
right.
And I really did have a lot of faith and trust that we were eating such a variety of, some doctors will say get 30 different types of fiber per week. I'm
Yeah,
like, well, we're easily doing that.
right. Yeah. And we still supplement and recommend supplementing just for that reason, just to be like, hey, look, if I don't necessarily think that we even have to, as far as vitamin D and, living in Florida certainly helps. I think omegas are important. I think B12 obviously is important, but even every once in a while, I'll cycle on and off of a multivitamin just to have our bases covered. And I think with the kids too, even the plant-based doctors that we have, they're like, look, like Aaron's doing, like even taking a small portion of that supplement, especially if you're pregnant, we're like, this just feels right to us.
So I'm
So
confused. So I know you said you took a multi-level, you split it up, a multivitamin during your pregnancy. Now you said you still supplement. So besides the multivitamin for your pregnancy, you take supplements now. I know you take the complete that supplement I saw
Oh,
in your
yeah.
shakes, but do you take the comp? Yeah, do you take like is that your main thing that you take, or do you take other things?
yeah,
We keep a liquid B12 and a liquid D3 on hand,
yeah,
and an algae-based omega capsule.
yeah,
And those are just kind of like there for if we're traveling or whatever and feel like you need a little boost of B12 or whatever. And the odd thing is, it was like those were the same 3 things that we had on hand when we were eating a standard American diet.
right,
And then when we went like paleo,
right.
and we're still on
We were
those.
eating the clean meats for a while, on this journey to a plant-based diet. We were still supplementing with the same things. And so
Sure.
we recommend people do the same. They're like, oh, well, if you go on a plant-based diet, you need B12. We're like, I don't care if you eat meat, you still need B12 too. And then too, and vitamin D, we have a plant-based doctor who we're really good friends with. He's actually an OBG, so he specializes in plant-based pregnancies and things. And he's like, wow, he's like, you know what? I've seen so many amazing things with supplementing vitamin D, and from strong bones to this and that. He's like, and I don't care if you're on a plant-based diet or not. He's like, there's just some of these things that we could all benefit from. So yeah.
Sure. Now, when you were pregnant, did you start eating the same, just more, or did you not even eat? Did you increase the amount of food? And were you watching your iron levels? Were they fine in your blood, or how was that?
Yeah, with pregnancy, I was actually surprised. My appetite didn't really go up. I feel like I was pretty much consuming the same amount of calories. But then breastfeeding, whole different story. It was like
Yeah.
600 calories extra per day, because being physically active, exercising, plus producing breast milk requires, three
Yeah.
to 400 extra calories each. But during pregnancy, I pretty much ate the same as I always had been. So just such an abundance of color, and we call it hyper nourishing,
Yeah.
just like going above and beyond expectations as far as getting variety. And that was mainly what I focused on.
I feel like the things you maybe added in were with the kids, especially, they've kind of gone hand in hand. Is like Aaron makes these, again, they're not raw, of course, but like your lactation brownies, you call them.
That's what we call them, even though the
Yeah.
whole family eats them.
I'm like, I love them. Hopefully I'm not going to start lactating. So far we're good, but they're delicious. The kids love them, so I think you still do a high raw diet, your big salads and all these things, but you're like,
oats.
now when you're breastfeeding, you're like, I'm ravenous. You're like snacking on these
So that's
super
when
healthy brownies,
yeah, I
and
would
stuff
say
like
like
that.
oats were like one of the biggest things that I started incorporating after
Yeah.
giving birth. They're supposed to be great for lactation, and just, they do have a lot of healthy minerals and protein and all of that stuff.
Yeah.
So, I mean, they're as crunchy as you could imagine with, grinding our own oat groats and then sweetening it with pitted medjool dates
Right.
and adding in a couple bananas and some chia and flax for omega-3s, and just,
Yeah.
they're super good. So,
Yeah. Delicious.
Well, it was such an important point you brought up that you were already grounded before you got into this, getting pregnant and do this because when you first started, like way back when, did you both lose a lot of weight?
Yeah, I mean, I was looking back at pictures when we were in Italy, for instance, and I was like, gosh, I was lean. I just got back from a bike ride right now. Aaron and I are very active. We both cycle, we both run, lift weights, and that's just who we were even before we were eating this way. And when I cut out meat and dairy and all the things, I didn't know what to eat, and I did. I lost weight. I lost too much weight. And I look at myself and I'm like, gosh, I wish I would have.
well,
I felt great. I felt amazing, but I'm like, I could have probably bulked up. And since, I'm lifting more weights, I'm eating more calories, and I feel like I look, a little bit healthier, even though, it's a relative term.
well,
Yeah,
here's what it was for me, especially having such a plethora of symptoms and not having a diagnosis, but I was definitely in this state of dis-ease, where I had constant brain fog and just lethargy and numbness and tingling. And I started Googling my symptoms. My hormones were off. Everything was like pointing toward autoimmune and then multiple sclerosis. And I was like, bingo, this has to be it. But,
right.
test
Terrified.
results showed, nope, it's not that. And doctors poo-pooing it, saying you're
Yeah.
fine, you're just anxious, you're a hypochondriac.
Yeah.
Nothing feels worse than to have everything that you're feeling discredited by a medical professional. Like, how uncool. And then, so that's why we turned to food as medicine and took it
Right.
into our own hands and started feeling better and better. But honestly, it really was dialing back everything we were doing to the basics, like
Right.
getting to the bare minimum. And I feel like you really truly have to like break something down
Right.
in order to build it back up properly.
Yeah.
Because our foundations were so unstable. So I feel like our bodies were kind of like broken down, and we have been building back up so much more robustly.
Right.
And, they say that the human body is like a completely new human after 7 years, because your cell turnover and regeneration
Yeah.
takes about 7 years, I guess. And we've definitely surpassed that by now. And we do feel like whole new people, like so much better now in our
almost
late
40.
late
We'll be
30s.
We'll be
Yeah.
40 very soon.
Which I don't understand, because I'm like, my biological age, I still feel like I'm stuck in like my college age,
Right. Same.
So you're up in 30s and you just had a baby.
Yep, 3
Yeah.
babies. In fact, yesterday we had a couple come to the house that's helping us with a project, and
Yeah.
she was like, my goodness, you just had a baby. And I was like, yep, number 3. She's like, 3. She's
Yeah.
like, what are you doing? And I was like, it's honestly mostly diet, and I'm very active. And
Yeah.
the most important thing, like you were saying, is having that like 5 years under our belts,
Right.
not just with nutrition, but with exercise and with good rest, which is why eat, move, rest is what we preach.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. That's
So.
why we, and as Aaron was saying, when we started, it was about getting back to the basics. For sure, we were like, we need to educate, we need to help people with a plant-based diet. But we also realized, moving your body and getting proper rest are also so crucial, so crucial. And we realized, okay, if you wake up and you eat, have a green smoothie, maybe instead of your coffee and your bacon and eggs, start with a green smoothie. and then you have energy to go out and exercise or work in the yard or whatever it is. Just move your body, and then you're worn out at the end of the day, right? So you're able to get good rest, and this like locomotive, we call it this like eat, move, rest locomotive, just starts spinning, and before you know it, you're on this trajectory to better health, and that's how it's been for us. And yeah, I like how you said when we started, it kind of was almost a breaking down. I look at pictures and I'm like, I was fasting, I was detoxing years of terrible food, and like I said, the college days and beer drinking and all of that stuff. And now I look at myself, I'm like, gosh, at 38 years old, I'm stronger, leaner, fitter than I was at 28, probably even 18. And I'm like, this is just amazing. So
Wow. And I know time wise, I mean, to have three children is one thing, but to take out a camera and start filming, and then you got to find time to edit.
oh, I know.
Wow. I mean, I know you guys are putting the kids down and up late editing because that is a lot of filming you're doing. And
Yeah.
Honestly, we couldn't do it without each other. We
Yeah, we
balance
make a
each
good
other.
team.
We balance each other out really well.
Yesterday, I took Liv, our 3-year-old, to the grocery store. It's grocery shopping is usually an all-day thing. So I took her with me, and Erin had Max, did some homeschool. She shot the video. Come home and I get the footage, and we're very
Edit.
busy. We're very busy, but we love our lifestyle, and we make a very good team. So
that's great. So what about your children now? So I know they're homeschooled, so they don't go to the average school and have to dealing with the other kids and the teachers. But
yeah,
in general, I mean, I always would say to people, look, don't give food a name, just make it taste good. Like when
right,
spouses used to complain, how can I get my husband to eat certain way? I said, don't tell them it's healthy, just make it taste good. They don't care about health, they just make it taste good. So is
right,
that the kind of the philosophy you have for your children, or is there more to it? Do you really teach them about, I know you
yeah,
mentioned here and there, this is healthy, this is not healthy, but is it really just about making it taste good?
Yeah, I mean, we honestly never taught them the V word,
right.
veganism,
Yeah,
but
we
it's
kind of
funny
stay
they
away from
picked
it.
up on it from their one of these kids movies, Ice Age, I think. They're talking about being vegan and it cracked me up. And
Yeah,
now Max has been asking, is this vegan? Mommy,
yeah.
is this vegan? But other than
And he
that, no,
does look,
it's
we buy everything organic, and so he's like, Dad, is this organic? And so, but he'll be 6 years old, so he's picking up on these things,
and then he's like, Mom, do people watch us on the internet?
right?
And I was, yeah, they do. It's like, is that okay with you? We're gonna get to
Yeah,
the point where it's,
I know.
do we have your permission, or do you want to take a part? Because if you don't, we respect that. But
Yeah, we're
right
getting to
now, it's
that
just
point.
they love it, and it's always just been for us even less about the label and more about the lifestyle of
Yeah,
abundance and color. Like nobody can argue that more color, more vibrancy, more living fresh fruits and veggies are bad for you. They're just
yeah,
and that's what the kids are naturally drawn to. Even a lot of times we'll cook carrots in a stew and they won't eat them, but you give them
raw
fresh
carrot.
chopped carrots and hummus and
They
they'll
love
eat the
them,
whole thing of it.
right?
And I'm like, Dusty's like, oh, don't let them eat all that hummus before dinner. I'm like, it's chickpeas and tahini that's
Yeah,
got protein and
true.
iron
I'm
and
like,
healthy
let
fats.
him eat
Like,
it all.
just let them eat it all. And then fruit, same thing. It's like they could just live on fruit if we would let them.
Totally.
Now is
Yeah.
your 6 month old, is she strictly breastfed?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay, so how old are your other children?
Yep. So Zoe's actually she's only 3 months old, so she's still
3 months
breastfed, and
old. Yeah,
we'll
three.
be we'll probably give her some solids around 6 months. Olivia just turned 3 on July 1st, and Max will be 6 right before Christmas, 2 days before Christmas. So yeah.
So they don't have a choice really at this point but to eat what you give them.
Right.
Yep. And,
Right.
we have experience like parents handing out snacks after the baseball game and
Yeah.
sports situations like that. But I
Yeah.
will say, even though most people aren't vegan, tons of kids have food allergies.
Yeah. Things are
And
getting
so
better.
like parents are like, oh, my kid doesn't eat that, or like food dyes and like the little fruit snacks. So it
Right.
doesn't really matter at what it is. Like every parent is very cautious these days about what their kids are consuming. So like
Yeah.
it's getting better. Like parents are bringing little cutie oranges for the kids after the games,
Instead of
or just like little
cupcakes.
toys or little games instead of,
Yeah.
yeah. So I think it doesn't even matter. It's not just vegans. It's parents are
That
very
That being
cautious.
said, that being said, with Max getting to the point where he is starting to ask questions, he is starting to recognize things. He did have a cupcake after one of his baseball games. Of course, he grabbed it and I was packing the bag and all the things, and then I didn't want to rip it out of his hand. He recognized though, he's like, Dad, I don't feel good. He's like, I got a stomach ache. I'm sugar. He says sugared out. He's like, I'm too
Sugar.
sugared out. And I'm like, you know what? Aaron and I have kind of decided if he wants to try a piece of pizza, at a birthday party one of these times, I think it's actually better to let them
Mhm.
and recognize that they maybe feel lousy,
Yeah.
as opposed to being, restrictive and
Being a
religious.
food police, and then they're
Right,
gonna eventually rebel in their
right.
rebellious years later
Because
on.
I remember, again, my beer drinking college days were partly because my mom was so strict, when I was growing up. I'm like, what if we just let them choose for themselves and trust that, they'll make the right decisions, they'll come back
Well,
to it.
that's
And
interesting.
yeah,
So I could tell you, I just interviewed somebody yesterday who's been a vegan his whole life. He's in his 70s and he
yeah,
was raw for the first 32 years of his life. But he had a
wow,
brother who was like around his age, and his brother ate anything. And I
yeah,
found that very interesting. But from my own personal experience, when I was getting into the raw food diet, there was a lady named Karen Ramsey. And
yep.
Yeah.
We know
Karen,
Karen.
I'm good friends with her. And I was getting into raw, and she got raw the same time as I did. And she wanted to raise her kids raw, and her
Yeah,
husband wasn't as supportive at the time. So, after as they started getting older, it became a challenge for her,
yeah,
and they actually went off raw. But it's
yeah,
amazing that both of them came back later, and now they're both big, strong advocates of raw. Now,
yeah,
me having children around that age, I made the decision like you. I came to a point where I said, look, I sat my children down because they already knew how I did it, and they had already tasted enough stuff. And then, like I said, I'm going to show you 2 or 3 movies
yeah,
about the vegan diet and animals being killed. And then after that, you're old enough to make your own decision now.
yeah,
And
right,
I did that, and one of them is just eating like the world, and the other one is really conscious about not wanting to eat animals and
right, right,
trying the best. So I think it's a smart thing what you're doing is you're not completely shutting them out. I think that's good.
right.
And I like that you mentioned showing them the documentary or whatever, because I think it is only fair that we have all the information, because
Yeah,
so many people are disconnected. In
yeah.
fact, Thanksgiving, like last year, Max showed up at my parents' house and he's like, "Where's the turkey?" He was looking for,
A bird
an
with
innocent
feathers.
child is looking like, "Where's the turkey?" The only
Yeah.
turkey he knows is a living turkey. He doesn't know that this giant thing on the countertop is what a turkey looks like when you're going to eat it. So,
Yeah, it's just sliced up and he's like, this is
so
turkey? What?
yeah,
He's like, you're eating the turkey? And my
Oh,
grandpa's like, you oh yeah, whatever. And yeah, so
I think
it
it kind
is
of broke his
fair.
heart a little bit.
And again, I think that is so important though, because that's a big part of it. The neighbors, we just got new neighbors, and they have chickens and they're over here and they're playing and the kids just love the chickens, run around with them. And the neighbors are like, "Hey, you guys ever want eggs? Come and ask for eggs." And we haven't had the vegan conversation with them yet, but the kids are just like, they cannot fathom the idea
now, what
of
would you have said though if they did say, or they do say, I want an egg, or I want some of Grandpa's turkey? What
right.
would you have said at that spot?
No, and again, I think at this point with Max getting to that point, I think I would be like, okay, yeah, man, yeah, man, let's try it, or whatever. And how do you feel about that? And but again, like Aaron said, also recognizing that this was an animal, with a life
Just
that
educating them. Yeah.
educating them and not really, really not trying to sway them in any direction. But let's be honest, who after they learn or see how these animals are treated, you know, who can really say that they're okay with consumption? And so I think that the kids will make the right decisions, like you said. And we know Karen, we
And
know
it,
her
it's the
son.
same.
What's her son's name?
Marco.
I was gonna
Yeah.
say Marco. We know Marco and Marco's wife now too.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're great. We've met them in Costa Rica and
Yeah.
yeah. So again, and my brother and I too. My brother and I are so similar in so many ways. He chooses to live a little bit differently than I do, and but he's also started to come around, and we've just learned that you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make him drink. And like you said, making food taste good is the most important thing. We have people that join our membership that follow us online and all the things. And their number one question is, how do I, like you mentioned, how do I get my husband to eat this way? How do I get my kids to eat this way? And I'm like, stop telling them and just make the food epic.
Yeah.
Make them delicious food. Don't even have to tell them what it is. Don't tell them it's vegan. I made,
And it's the same with it's the same with fitness too. Like,
yeah.
you know, I grew up with a drill sergeant dad who
Yeah.
pushed my brother and I away from the sports we were excelling at.
Yeah.
And, you know, now with Max, he has a huge passion for baseball and
Loves it.
phenomenal at it.
Yeah.
We're just like, let's just keep it that way. Let's not overwork him or push him.
Right.
Way too young for that. So yeah, it's in the same with, you know, we have a very strong faith and we want to instill that faith in our children. So at some point you have to kind of release them into the wild, so to speak, on every level, you know, even when my mom would send me to sleepovers, she would always, you know, say like, go to bed at a reasonable hour. That's what we all hope. But I always disobeyed. We stayed up way later than we should have.
Right.
But I learned on my own, you know, agenda. So I think it's going to be that way with everything, not just with food. So we have to just do our best with the 90% of the time that we're at home and we got our young kids at home to instill our values and our habits and practices into their lives. And you hope that if they veer off, they come back.
Totally.
Sure, sure. So I know you did raw for a while and then you added cooked food to your diet. And I also know, like for me, when I see adding cooked food, vegan food, the hardest part is a lot of the food has canola oil in it. A lot of the packaged food out there has canola oil.
Yeah.
So what made you go from all raw, or how long did you do all raw where you decided you were going to add cooked food, and how was that transition period for you? Or did you never go all raw? I don't know exactly.
Yeah.
I only dabbled in it here and there for
Yeah.
like a week at a time and then off of it
I
again.
think we
But
did
mostly
raw till 4, raw till dinner type of thing.
well, that was pretty steady for the first, you know, 3-4 years.
Yeah.
But then I think that, you know, we never bought like the processed package stuff because we decided to be oil free. So it automatically cuts almost everything processed out.
Right.
Everything.
I
It's
like
such
to
an
cook.
important.
I've kind of been the chef, the dinner time cook since we got together. Even when I was making Aaron eat meat, I was still always the dinner guy. So that's why we're launching our first cookbook very soon. And you know, a lot of these recipes we started out like last night I made spaghetti. The kids love spaghetti. If they're ever not eating well, I'm gonna make them spaghetti. But I crumbled tofu and I put it under the broiler so it's, you know, it's crispy and it's spiced up. It so closely resembles ground beef. I want to feed it to your dad sometime and just see if he can tell the difference. But like I have fun and I had fun in the beginning making non-vegan foods vegan and oil-free. And so I guess we just continued doing that. And even today, you know, it's most days it's like, well, let's just, you know, eat raw until dinner time. And that's just always worked for us. You know, we've never really, Aaron and I always say, oh, when the kids are grown, we're gonna move to Costa Rica and we're gonna be fully raw. We always say that, but gosh, we're doing well, and the kids especially, you know, enjoy their cooked brownies and waffles and spaghettis and things. So right now we're like, gosh, it'd be hard to change too many things.
So when you give them the brownies, the waffles, are you making these things from scratch yourself, or do you sometimes
Always.
you never buy the package and like,
Not once have we ever even we've never bought a brownie or a waffle. We've always made it from scratch. So,
and even when you're traveling, they never stop to.
I mean, seriously, we either if we get an Airbnb or we usually are going home to travel and we make our moms pick up bananas and we have Amazon deliver the oats and we take over the kitchen. We've never bought the junk because
honestly, like if we go out to dinner with family, like I don't even want to eat the Beyond Burger or the Impossible Burger. Never have tried them. It's like I'll just have them chop me like a massive plate of carrots and whatever veggies and like a big bowl of guac or avocado mashed up.
Yeah.
And I'll just munch on that and eat when I get home. I'd rather have that than feel awful.
And Max, so and then of course me being different and Max looking at, you know, Aaron's brother, his uncle, who's got this big juicy burger. Max is like, Dad, I want a burger. So I'm like, okay, let's get the Beyond Burger. So Max and I got the Beyond Burger and I don't love it. It's a step in the right direction. Maybe it's kind of a mystery meat to me, but
It's a mystery.
still, I'm always like looking at Aaron and I'm like, I should have just had a big salad, because even that stuff, it's like, I don't know if the kids actually like it. Liv ends up eating all of mom's guac and not the vegan junk food either. So yeah, we don't even try with waffles and brownies and stuff. We're like, let's just make sure we have a blender. We've literally traveled. We took a blender with us to Europe before the kids were born. I mean, we traveled with the blender. We make our own everything. So
So, and as your daily lifestyle, I mean, there's different ways to do it.
yeah,
Do you have set meal times or do you eat whenever you're hungry? And the same thing with the children. Do you just feed them when they're asking for food or do you have set meal times?
we are so bad with
We
schedules.
start with a really solid breakfast. We
Yeah,
do our green smoothie or a green juice, some type of green every single morning,
yeah,
accompanied by like fruit and like the waffles or fresh oatmeal or overnight oats.
yeah,
The daytime, like throughout the day, it's grazing, and then usually we eat dinner together. But like
yeah.
midday, like it's just like grazing on whatever,
Grapes
fruits
and
and
fruit, chop a pineapple. And some days the kids we'll just eat a whole pineapple. Some days we'll have a pineapple. And Max yesterday he asked for peanut butter and jelly. So like we're very kind of lackadaisical in that way. We always are kicking ourselves for not having a better schedule. Breakfast can be at 8
but it
a.m.
works for
one
us,
day, and today it was super late. We slept in and we were up too late, but the kids are young, and this life is free, and we're like, oh, whatever, let's just chill and hang
Yeah, you
out and great.
you said
It's
peanut butter and jelly. What do you do for bread?
We
what
usually
what did
get
I
that
get?
Ezekiel bread is
Yeah,
like our top pick.
yeah,
We've tried some of the others and they just don't have as great of ingredients and
yeah. Publix, you're here in Florida, so
Yes.
Publix makes a good organic
multi-grain
multi-grain in their little.
bakery.
Yeah, it seems like they make it themselves. Bread is bread at the end of the day. It's probably certainly not a health food. But if that's what he wants, I'm happy to make him whatever he wants to eat.
I'll
So
give you a tip, a Florida tip or anywhere tip. You know where you get the best bananas?
no.
If you're not growing them yourself, go behind Aldi's and go to the dumpster. They throw out all the ripe bananas and they have the green
Where?
ones in the store.
All these?
You go to the dumpster at Aldi's, they throw out all the yellow bananas and they keep the
Uh,
green ones in the store.
are
Oh
you
man.
kidding me?
Yeah, you
That's
get cases.
crazy.
You know,
Cases they throw out.
our
That's
neighbor, our
crazy.
neighbor behind us has a massive banana palm or banana
Yeah.
tree. And
I've been stealing
there's
his
like,
bananas.
he tells us, have at them. You can have the whole thing. You can chop it down if you think it's ugly. And we'll be like, are you kidding? And he's like, he's like, I hate bananas. They aren't sweet. And I'm like, they're not sweet because you're not waiting long enough.
Right. So there's 2 racks on it now. We harvested 2 racks a few months ago. There's 2 more. And first of all, they're beautiful, right? I love the palms and they can get ugly, so I clean them up, but I'm like, this is a jackpot, for vegans, right? Banana trees. So, but that being said, they're small, so we buy a lot of bananas, and I do buy cases. But I'm gonna have to find an Aldi
Yeah,
and
absolutely. It's amazing.
that's crazy. That's an
Yeah.
awesome.
Yeah. A lot of people throwing out food out there.
Yeah.
So, when you grew up in Nebraska, I've been to Nebraska, and my impression was of Nebraska was absolute beautiful scenery, but it's all GMO corn. That was my uh people were telling me that when I was there, and I looked at it and I was like, wow, it's just beautiful. They're like, yeah, it's a nice, beautiful field of GMO corn. That's what they were
Right.
telling me.
Yep.
Yeah.
So when you grew up there, did you grow up like in a city area or did you
Yeah.
grow up in like a big open field?
No.
We were in Lincoln, which is a college town, University of Nebraska, Lincoln,
Yeah.
massive like football team.
Lincoln and Omaha are on the southeast tip, and they're about 40 minutes away from each other. Omaha's 1 million people. Lincoln's like 350,000. So we're in the very most populated corner of the state. We were very much city people, so we didn't really get that. But I've got cousins and relatives that are farmers, beef cattle farmers and corn growers and all the things. And yeah, it's sad, honestly, how bad, man, how much is dumped, how many chemicals and things are dumped,
It's
on
crazy. It's
that.
crazy. But I
Even if
have
it's
this,
feeding it to the cattle, even if the cows are eating it, it's just like, oh man, it's just nuts.
It's so
So,
insane. It's so insane. People need to see videos and films about this stuff because
right.
it's gotten out there now. People know what's going on. But I have this dilemma because I grew up in the city. I grew up in actually Brooklyn, New
Yeah,
York, and people that get into this lifestyle and then they have kids. I love children. I want more children. I love, and the philosophy of the idea is like, I want to go buy land and have the biggest open field and everything else.
right.
But being from the city and the way real estate is today, if you're going to do that, you really like, I love being 5 minutes from Publix. I love
Same.
being like round around the corner from Aldi's and Whole Foods.
Yeah,
But if you're in the city, most of the time, because of the way real estate is, you got to drive an hour to get to Costco. And
right,
for me, I would struggle with that, even though I desire to be out in the middle of nowhere.
right.
So how is it with you? Do you guys have a dream? I know you like love Costa Rica, but do you have a dream of one day owning like 10 acres so your kids can run around and you can grow everything? Or do you want to find like me, the middle ground where I could be close to everything but still have the land to grow?
It's the
This has
struggle of
been,
our life.
yeah,
It's
this is
the
like the
struggle.
daily discussion slash argument we have with ourselves and
And
with
with
each
our real
other.
estate agent, I mean,
We've
literally
been,
my phone right now, we're constantly looking
we found a lot that was like too good to be true, like close to everything for the kids, close to the easy access to great produce.
acres so we can
And
grow
all,
food.
we're like, this is just a miracle. This is too good to be true. And it was too good to be true. It all fell through.
Yeah,
The sellers were lying to us. So
yeah,
we are currently trying to find a nice middle ground.
yeah,
We just want more access while the kids are young. It's more convenient for sports and activities and building community for their sake.
yeah,
But when we're older, we're like, yeah, let's get some land and let's really do it big with, growing things.
yeah.
And I
Right
want to have,
now,
the thing is like, I want to have all of the farm animals, but I just want to like love on them. So
same.
maybe that's a sanctuary. I don't really know, but like
Yeah.
that would be the ultimate dream.
Same. Watching the chickens, they cross our fence and they come over and play, and the kids are like, they don't need an iPad. They don't need any of these things. Like we were watching, we were on Instagram and Liv was fussy. So I'm like, okay, I need to distract her. So we were looking at mini horses on Instagram and she was just loving it. I'm like, how cool, to have something like that for the kids now. So it's a constant dilemma for us.
Sure,
So.
sure.
But
Now,
we did. We're
yeah,
an hour away from Whole Foods now, and it's difficult. We've got nothing but open space around us currently, which is nice. But we're an hour from Whole Foods, and that's why our grocery haul
And
took all day
well,
yesterday.
yeah,
this
I saw that.
too is they're even within like eating healthy, whole food, plant-based, people are like, oh, well, you can't eat that. It's, it's not organic, or you can't eat that. It's like spinach has oxalates, brown rice has arsenic.
Yeah,
Like we are constantly bombarded by like all of this like food policing, or just like don't make waffles. That waffle iron has
chemicals.
chemicals. I'm like, but it's ceramic plated. Anyway, I just feel like it's so hard to not get so heady about it, no matter what diet you're on. It seems like there's a problem with everything nowadays. And like
Yeah,
we recently we got a new Sprouts market close to us, but then somebody posted this viral video of like the produce being sprayed like on the shelves.
with like
And it
some
was not
chlorine.
water, it's actually some kind of chemical.
Yeah,
And so it just, oh man, it just
it's
drives me nuts.
constant. It's constant. You can never be in the right place. You can never eat the right thing.
And then it's
Sure.
like, well, the only option we have left is to grow our own, but it is very difficult, especially for most people, more difficult than it is for us even.
Totally.
Well, that's why I'm really into and promoting into growing sprouts and microgreens.
Right.
Because
Yeah.
even somebody that lives in a city in their apartment, they can grow sprouts and microgreens with no problem once they get in the habit of doing it, and they can
Yeah.
literally live off them. It's so, and children love it. That's why I'm really promote that for people that don't have the land to grow.
Right.
Uh,
Who
you
was
know,
Doug.
Doug Evans?
Yeah, we've talked to
yes,
Doug.
yes, yes.
We've had a couple podcast interviews with Doug in the past. We did, you should say you did sprouts for a long time. Big trays on the counter, and again, a lot of things have changed.
Fell off the bandwagon when I got pregnant with Max, because
It all takes a lot of work.
every single first trimester I got major like
Oh, yeah.
aversions to greens, which
Yeah.
I've heard a lot of pregnant women do. Just couldn't even fathom the thought of
Well,
eating.
I mean, a lot of pregnant women get aversions to healthy food in general, so it's amazing that you were able to work through it because when you're pregnant
Yeah.
and you get those junk food cravings, or did you? Like, did you? I mean,
Not really. I just
okay.
had weird aversions. I never had cravings. I just had a lot of aversions. So what my variety was narrowing
Yeah.
down quite a bit.
Yeah,
Now,
that was the worst part for you is was what you couldn't eat.
Mhm.
with your time, do you, I know being a parent is definitely a full-time job. Making videos is a full-time job. Do you have other jobs, or is this the main thing that you do, both of you?
Yeah, this is the main thing now, which is again why we were able to move, between we have a membership. We've done 7 retreats in Costa Rica. We got a book deal. We've been able to turn this into our job, which is a huge blessing. And yeah, so this is our main gig now. We do a little bit of real estate, investing and things like that, especially here in Florida. But for the most part, yeah,
I
eat, move,
feel like
rest is our gig.
we
So
were literally, we both, straight out of college, we started working, and any second that we had free, we weren't just like kicking our feet up watching a show on Netflix. We were like
yeah,
building out a website,
yeah,
beginning to brand ourselves simply because we were so excited with how good we were feeling that we wanted to share it with everyone else. So
yeah,
any spare moment we had, we were building this, and
yeah,
That's
yeah.
wonderful. And I'm going to put all your links below. Everybody, you can contact them, their YouTube channel and their website, and find out all they're doing and get their information and watch their videos. Subscribe to the YouTube channel. It's really
yeah.
wonderful. That's great. I have a couple more things I want to ask you about before we finish. I know you recently made a video about a food haul, and several times you mentioned how much you spend on food in your budget. And I don't want somebody to be watching this thinking, well, it would be too expensive to eat this way, and you
Right.
seem very cost aware of what the costs were of things. But a couple
Yeah.
of times you said this is only a couple of weeks and how much we spend. Now, if somebody just sees that price and they think it's weekly, they'll be like, whoa. So
Right.
on average, how much do you spend a month on food eating this way?
Yeah. Gosh, that's tough. I never really calculated it. It was kind of hard in the video because I don't want to scare people off. I'd say we spend,
We'll have to make it a future video. That
yeah,
Okay,
if
sounds
but I
yeah,
good.
will say
maybe we'll sit down and
if
calculate
you
it.
go up and you look at the deli or the area where if you want to eat like a clean, super clean diet, but animal products included, you
Yeah.
get like that top tier cut of meat and best kind of eggs and all that. It's going to be more expensive. So,
Right.
we really want to shed light on the fact that so many of these foods are you buy in bulk and they last you eons. You buy
Right.
a massive thing of brown rice and then your lentils and your dry beans, all these things you can soak and cook from fresh that are so nutrient dense.
Sprouts, like you
And even
mentioned.
even if you buy a case of bananas and
Yeah.
let them ripen and freeze them, like buying our frozen fruits in bulk and all that stuff, it's not as expensive as people think. It's when you get into like all of the superfoods
Yeah.
and supplements that we definitely don't ever want people to feel like you have to have this to succeed.
Right. I
It's
feel like
definitely not the case. We look at them almost as like, I don't know, maybe it enhances certain aspects. If I'm
yeah.
going to add acai powder or an acai pack into my smoothie, it can enhance the health benefits, but definitely not necessary to thrive, I don't
We
think.
still preach to people apples, oranges, bananas. You can find them in any gas station, on any road trip, whatever. And, people like your dad tease us like we're eating like the beggar's diet. We're like, yeah, we are kind of, right? We are kind of eating the beggar's diet. And it cost related to how we used to eat, it's so much more affordable.
Yeah, you look at all the
Minus,
alcohol and the restaurants and the fast food and the
seriously,
What
the
I tell
meat.
people is you can get the same food often at Whole Foods and Walmart. The same thing. They both have organic produce, but you're going to pay more at Whole Foods. So once you
True.
get aware of where to shop, it can significantly cut down. Aldi's is cheaper than Publix. Once you
Right.
learn these little tricks, you can
Yeah.
save a lot of money. I walk out of Aldi's, I'm like, wow, and Trader Joe's, I got that much food for that little money. I
Oh, I
walk
love
out of Whole Foods and Publix, I'm like, whoa, you know?
crazy. It's
So
crazy. Whole Foods is what they call it whole paycheck. But yeah, I went to Trader Joe's the other day, or on the video. I
yeah,
started at
I
Trader
saw
Joe's.
that.
I think I bought 12 or 15 cartons of soy milk, organic soy milk, and they were $1.99 a piece. And it's like the West Soy brand at Whole Foods is like $5 a carton. That's more than double. And it's like, yeah, so you learn, and that's why we made that video. We're like, go to Trader Joe's, go to Costco, all these other places that you're mentioning too are all great. And it can be very cost effective.
Have you
So
gotten into any of the online shopping? They have a like Thrive Market where you can get
uh,
like
yeah,
We
stuff.
did
I mean, it's
Thrive for a while.
packaged, but what'd you say?
Yeah, we did a sponsored video with Thrive
we
and we
shopped
thought
there
it was
for a
pretty
while.
cool. And
Yeah. I still find though that even with Thrive, like I'll get on Amazon and I'll buy a 6 pack of, organic nut butter or cashew butter or something. If you buy it in a 6 pack, these things are crazy expensive. You go to Whole Foods, a thing of cashew butter, which the kids unfortunately love, it's like liquid gold. It's like $17. But if you buy it in a 6 pack, it becomes like $13. So again, it's a delicacy. That's a very expensive piece of food. But but the point is buy in bulk, buy in bulk. I buy cases of stuff on Thrive or Amazon or what's the one? Azure Blue is a good place
Costco. If
on
you're gonna buy bulk, you can't go wrong with Costco. Costco's
Costco's the
the way.
yeah,
best. Costco's the
You're gonna
best. You
buy
can buy a
bulk.
we did
25-pound bag of
actually.
rice for like $17.
But
Don't
if it
ask
goes bad, now you've wasted money. So you got to make sure you're gonna use it.
me.
Yeah,
Yeah.
well, yeah, with any of the produce, people are like, how do you keep it fresh? How do you keep it fresh? I'm like,
Eat it.
if it's gonna go bad or we're not gonna eat it,
Yeah.
I like rinse the greens, tear them up, put them in the freezer. We have them for smoothies for days.
You gotta
And the
deep
same with
freeze.
like the berries. If you buy organic and you don't eat them within 2 days, they're rotten. So if
Yeah.
you're not gonna eat them, just rinse them and freeze them.
Yeah.
Don't let your food go to waste. But yeah, like Dusty said, the most important thing is like, how do you not let that spinach wilt? It's like we eat it.
Right. We eat
Yeah, I
it.
hate throwing away food. And when I see people say, "Oh, I just give my food to my animals, like my chickens," I'm like, "That's good food. They're like giving better food to their chickens than they are that they're eating."
My
Exactly.
dad just
Her dad.
my dad has like a massive greenhouse and he's got these like rare exotic finches that he bought online that got shipped to the house and he's babying them. He like
Feeds them what we
he
eat. He's got
created this
Yeah,
quinoa
they,
and then he
quinoa
goes
blends
he
and
goes, where'd
fruit.
you I was making a smoothie at their house and I put spirulina and he goes, where'd you get that spirulina?
And we
And I was
both
like, I
turned
just
around
bought
and we're like,
I was
what?
like
What are you asking about spirulina? What's happened to you?
my
He goes,
husband
for my birds.
he was like yeah, apparently we were using his spirulina. He's buying. He's like, it's not cheap. And I was
Yeah.
like, well, why aren't you eating it? Why are you giving it to your finches?
Yeah.
yeah. All right. So a couple more questions before we close out here. So, uh, you've said a lot about how you're doing this, and I think it's great. Now, do you guys disagree on anything when it comes to diet and health? And if so, how do you rectify that?
Well, I mean, we try not to, come from a divisive place. We're usually like, let's find a common ground. Like Aaron said, let's all agree that we can just be incorporating more fruits and vegetables,
Are you meaning us two
Yeah,
disagreeing?
you
Oh,
too. You too. Yeah.
oh,
I,
that's a good
I
Like
question.
one of you says, we got to get to sleep at 8 o'clock and we want to be up eating watermelon at 7. And the other person says, no, I want to stay up late and don't care what time, well,
I'm the late
why?
person. She's the early
I'm a
person.
late person too because I just feel like I just can't be the only
Well,
one
that was
sitting.
the sleep was just an example. I mean, anything with diet, like we're not going to
Yeah.
eat
Yeah.
like peppers, but no, I think they're good. Like, do you have any
I
disagreement at
think
all that you
sometimes
guys?
Dusty, like, I feel like you somehow might be a little bit Italian and you just don't know it. He's
Right,
like,
right.
I feel like olive oil might be good for me. And
Yeah.
so like he sometimes puts it in like the pasta for him and the kids, which we're not really opposed to it for the kids, but for
Yeah.
me, I just know that I feel better without it. And
Right.
I
I
also
feel better without it too. I just can't help myself once in a while. So there are a
but
few
I think
things, yeah.
maybe like I'm just I don't want to say more strict or rigid, maybe not even disciplined. I find it easier to just not do the things
Right,
and to
right.
just keep my blinders on. And
Yeah.
sometimes
She would be better without me. I would be completely lost without her, and she would be better without me. So
that's not true.
I hate to say that I'm probably dragging. She would be fully raw. She would be, it's my fault for making these epic pastas and curries and things. That's probably why you have to eat the food because it's too tempting. But yeah, I think overall we don't disagree about much. We go out, if we're traveling, if we're on the road, we agree on what to eat, when to eat it. And with the exception of me being a night owl and craving more cooked vegan food, I think for the most part we get along great. I think it's because we've grown together. We kind of came to this at the same time.
Mhm.
So we had that, we're fortunate to have done that
As a
together.
family of five, how do you avoid, because it's a common problem, being the parents that have to cook five different meals because each kid likes their own thing and we all want our own things? How do you avoid being that person? Because I often see people saying, "Oh, I got to cook this for my husband and I eat this and the kid likes this." How do you
Yeah.
manage to avoid that?
Well, we've just decided to operate by the rule that it's our job to decide what to eat
Yeah.
and when to eat. It's the kids' job to decide if and how much they're going to eat.
Right.
If they're not going to eat, they definitely will at the next meal, and they're going to eat double the amount. So
Right.
we don't try to like cater to anyone specifically. It's like, this is what we're having tonight,
Yeah,
you
I
know?
kind of refuse, with the
And
exception of Max requesting the sandwich yesterday, I typically am not like, maybe I'm a little bit of an old fashioned kind of a like my grandpa in that way, but I'm like, if you're not gonna eat this, you're gonna go to bed hungry type of thing. And that's kind of how it is, and like Aaron said, they'll wake
But
up
they either end
hungry.
up coming around and eating it, or the next meal is double, so it's like two meals. So
Yeah.
it's just better, I feel like, to not cater in that way.
And I hate wasting food too. So
Exactly. So if they don't want to eat, you just tell them fine, and
yeah,
then eat the next meal. But you're
bed
right.
hungry.
That's it. Then eat when you're hungry. If you don't want to eat this, well, there'll be another meal at 6 or something.
Right.
Yeah, there's such a variety. It's like they'll love, sometimes they'll love one meal one day, and so we start making it more often because we all enjoy it. But
Right.
then they like
They don't
don't
touch
want it
it.
the next day.
I'm like,
So
I made this for you. Like,
it's just
we're all eating this for
it
you.
kind of becomes a game sometimes. They want to see what they can get out of you, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. But does that happen sometimes where they say they want to eat and you're like, okay, and they
Yeah.
don't eat? Does that happen, or do they eventually say, well, everyone else eating, I'm going to sit and eat?
It almost always, even if Max runs out. I was on my computer late last night. They were all laying down and he ran out here, and he does that often where he's like, even if he eats a good dinner, he'll occasionally run out late and he'll be like, Dad, I need a snack, so we'll have an apple or a banana or a
Mhm.
peanut butter sandwich with bananas on top. Like, so that's always, I don't like to do that. I would prefer him to eat dinner. So I'm not always, occasionally I will be like, nope, you got to go to bed hungry, dude, because you got to. That's why it's important to eat dinner. But if he eats good dinner and he's still hungry at bedtime, they always come around. It seems like even Liv,
Yep.
if she wakes up from a late nap and she doesn't eat dinner with us, it'll be 10:30 and she'll come back and she'll eat her dinner. So
Even now, so what about leftovers? Like if they're
yeah,
eating and they have leftovers, what do you tell them? Well, that's going to be your next meal. Do you just get rid of it? What do you do with left? Is that on the parents to say, well, we got to know our children and know how much to make, or is that on the children to say, we
yeah,
got to eat what our parents give us, the amount? Who's that
yeah.
on?
I'm not super strict on well, I guess maybe I am super strict. I like to see them finish their plate, obviously. That being said, Max is almost 6, Liv is 3. Occasionally they get the same amount, so I understand that. I eat a lot of leftovers. I eat a lot of kids' leftovers. I'm usually the one to get rid of those. So I started not getting seconds for myself, just expecting that I'll have to finish the kids too. And I'm okay with that. I'd rather them eat half their plate and enjoy it than, eat all of something that's not healthy or eat nothing,
Mhm.
of something that's super healthy. It's a balance. So yeah, I think you have reminded me that trying to get them to finish their meal when maybe they are truly full, like you don't want to make them feel sick and you don't want to create this weird like eating
That can cause
disorder.
disorder eating down the road too.
Right,
So
right.
it's kind of tricky.
All
Yeah,
right. Very good. Last question, and I appreciate you both being on, taking the time. I know you're so busy. And again, everybody, the links are below their YouTube page and also their website, and everything they're doing is on those two things. Subscribe to their channel. So
yeah,
last question is, currently, what is your faith and how does that play into your health and diet understandings?
yeah,
We are Christian,
yeah,
born and raised, and I think we kind of grew stronger in that faith when we came together.
yeah,
And I just always go back to the Bible verse about your body is a temple, and you really only have one place to live. You can't start fresh. Like, this is it. You've
right,
got one chance to do it right. So
right.
treat your body as a temple, which it is.
Yeah, 100% agree. In fact, I think I read this morning, I'm not great I bought a Bible that's the Bible in a year, and right, so it's got every day of the year, it's got Old Testament, New Testament, Psalms, and Proverbs, which is really cool because I'm terrible at reading scripture. I can have the apps and all the things. Anyway, I think I read that verse this morning, which is very interesting in that, we think about how, Jesus, for example, or even, the religious Jews in the Old Testament, like how devoted they were to the way that they were living their lives, and even in regards to animal sacrifice and all these things, and how that plays into veganism and the arguments of Jesus ate fish and all these things. It's like I always just ask myself, what would Jesus do today, right now, if he could see the documentaries, if he knew, if he, obviously, how would he be eating? How would he be living? It would be less harm. It would be, of course, it would be healthy. It would be all these things. And so,
Mhm.
that WWJD, what would Jesus do? The bracelets, we apply that to everything, including our diet. And this
Well,
is kind of what we think,
and I hear the non-harm thing a lot, ahimsa, in yoga classes, which I used to go to when I was really struggling with anxiety and stress and all of that stuff. But then it started to feel very like insincere to me when a lot of those people would go home and eat their cuts of meat or whatever, or go
Yeah,
grab lunch together after yoga. And it was just like, there's animal there. That's not non-harm in my eyes.
right.
So that was kind of confusing to me.
Yeah.
Very
Yeah,
good.
and another thing too with faith, you know,
I'm losing the connection. Hold
and
on, the
religion in
connection.
general. And
Wait,
there's so, again, finding the common, what
say
is the
that
meaning
last
of
part
life?
again. I lost the connection. The connection's slow.
Yeah, can you see it? Yeah. I think, in all of the world's faiths, again, like we mentioned, a common denominator with food, the common denominator with faith is like, what is the purpose of this life? There's a common denominator that there's more after this. We're created for more. So, okay, so what's the point of this life here? Well, I think the point of this life here is to help each other get to the next point. Bring heaven to earth, so to speak. A new world is what we're looking forward to. And so figuring out how to help each other as best possible in this
Mhm.
world, like I said, bring heaven down to us is the goal. And for us to be able to share health and wellness and uplifting and positivity, good vibes, colorful food, all these things seems like a very a very we're just fortunate. It
Mhm.
just seems like we're doing good. I just feel like, whatever your faith, whatever your religion is, like I feel so fortunate to get
Yeah.
to do what we do to try to help others,
Yeah. God is love, and we're supposed to be God-like, Christ-like.
Yeah.
So be love.
Yeah,
Love one another.
totally.
Wonderful. Well, I appreciate you getting the time. Everybody get their links below. Thank you both for being on the show. And I look forward to doing it again, having you on again and just hearing about
Yeah.
what's going on with your lifestyles. And check them out, everybody. Links are below. And tell everybody your links for those that can't read. Tell them.
Yeah. Yeah. Eatmoverest.com is our website. And then youtube.com/eatmoverest is our YouTube channel. You can find everything there.
Sounds good. All right, everybody. Thank you for watching. Put your comments and questions below. And until then, everybody have a great day and a great raw life.
Nature's wealth, good for your health. This is the Raw Life Health Show. Raw Life, brighten up your life.